Mental Training 101 on 105.5 The Roar. And now back to Get Warrior Tough with Andrew Wittman.
All right. We're back. Get Warrior Tough, the most monumental hour in media anywhere. Leadership and mental toughness coach Andrew Wittman, joined by the great Dutch Coleman. All right, Dutch, we were talking about a little bit about Twitter, the little Twitter, the tweeting, the social media. This is it's becoming like a huge deal because it's new, I think. It's only been a few years that it's really, but it's made a complete societal shift, I believe. What would you, I just want to let you talk about that, man.
Yeah, we know Twitter has begun. Now, if you're out there and you don't have Twitter, I would consider you a little behind, but not much behind, because I get on things late as well. So there's still time. Act now. but obviously Twitter is part of the new 24-hour news cycle.
Right.
And you can get everything instantaneous. This new microwave society that we've had the past 10 or so years. Basically, young people have driven Twitter, I would say, because it's been used for so much more than what it was ever imagined to be used for. I mean, it's a gossip column. It's a legitimate news source.
Right.
It's a horrible news source.
Yeah.
It's a place to do really, really bad things, and it's a place to also do really, really good things. So it's everything, and it's also what you make of it. So it doesn't have to be all those things. So I got it all out of the way.
Right.
So now, fast forward to Clemson. I'll go back first to 5 years ago, when the senior class really felt like they wanted to do something different, and really wanted to feel like they wanted to focus and change the culture of Clemson University from a football aspect. They decided to stay off Twitter. They looked at it as a negative. They were catching a lot of heat from fans, from rival fans, and apparently the kids couldn't resist responding, which could have been a big problem, could have knocked them off their line of thinking as far as being champions, yada, 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 however you want to look at that.
Right.
So the team went to Coach Sweeney and said, hey, we want to, as a senior leadership on the team, we want to, during the season, get off of Twitter, any social media. That's a distraction. They keep hearing words like focus. So this can only increase our focus. Well, the coaches are like, coaches aren't really as knowledgeable as we think 5 years ago of Twitter and all that thing. So they look at it and they kind of go back and think about it. And, of course, they like it because anytime you can keep your kids off of stuff like that, then that's great. But the fact that they brought it up, they're like, you know what, can we do this? Or is this something we can do? Well, the answer is yes. They initiated it, and of course, we think it's a great idea. So if you guys are driving it, then it's not us forcing you to do it.
They own it, right? They came up with it. It was theirs, right? Absolutely.
Right. And of course, coaches are gonna love that. They're gonna grab it because it's like, man, these kids are thinking on another level. We may have gotten them to understand what focus means. So the coaches, of course, instituted, they adopt it, and they run with it, and it becomes a natural part of the process, a part of the culture now, because when it came around the next time, kids expected that to be the thing. Like, hey, it's time for football season, shut down Twitter. So it's less of a coach saying, all right, now you guys get off Twitter now. It became a part of the culture. And then the next year comes around. No one has to say, all right, get off Twitter. It's like a norm.
Gotcha.
So it's not some dictator ruling saying you can't use Twitter, get off of Twitter now. It's now a part of the deal. And the thing that burned me most is these national pundits that come out and they make statements not knowing the origin, not knowing the students involved or any of that stuff, and they make these really, really general, harsh statements. This media ban, it's limiting kids. It's kind of a thing where you're holding kids back, being able to express themselves. And almost like it was some smokescreen that when kids get there, then they get this thing stripped away. Good luck, recruits.
Right,
well,
which is not even
very,
factual.
very aware of this.
It's not factual at all, right? There's
right.
no fact based on their truth that it's just a media ban, right? Okay.
And beyond their truth, Andrew, it becomes a lie because the recruits are very aware of this part because they talk about it. When they come in, the recruits are very aware that this is how we do things. It's not about right or wrong, but this is how we decide to do things. Now, you can choose to come here or choose not to come here. But this is how we do it. Before you ever sign or commit to anything, you're already aware that we don't use Twitter during the year. That's the first part of that. The second part of that is these kids are signing up with that being known, which tells me that Twitter is not a big a deal for these kids as people want to make it. They're willing. These are 4- and 5-star kids who have options.
Mm-hmm.
They can go anywhere in the country
and
have their freedom to use Twitter and they're choosing a school where you can't use Twitter. So that tells me that we're placing our value on these kids. What do you mean they can't use Twitter? Oh, they're going to die. They're choosing to go to a place where you can't use Twitter when they had 50 offers. And it tells me that, hey, calm down, grown folks. It's not that big of a deal to them. They're going to be okay. They're choosing this. They're not being held down. They're not being held back. They're not being limited. This is a choice, a conscious choice that they're making. So it's not as important to them as it is to us in our minds.
Well, and I was don't you think that they know that they've seen like their heroes in the NFL or on the top end of the college game get in trouble with Twitter? Has there ever been any upside for an athlete for Twitter? Let me ask that question. Have you ever seen an upside where like this is awesome? I mean, you never hear this is an awesome tweet in the news, do you?
No, not really. I think it can be that, though. I think that's where you take the time to educate your athlete. So people think you can't do both. So in the meantime, you need to be educating your athlete. And Clemson has programs, and many universities have programs now. They have John Sanderson down there at Clemson does a great job with social media and educating athletes and regular students and university personnel with the impact on social media. But so you can still do that, and kids choose not to use Twitter during the season because that's just a sign of ultimate focus. That has nothing to do with anything other than that. I want to eliminate as many distractions as possible, social media being one of the many things I may be eliminating.
Right. And I guess my point was that the media pundits that you were talking about, they'll never pick up on a tweet that encourages people. Like you never see that put out. And I never see that on Yahoo that, hey, so-and-so's, is at the, down at the children's hospital doing work. They don't put that out, man. They don't want to put that out. They want to put out the, hey, they said blah, 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 or they got in a bar fight, or they stole crab's legs, or whatever it is.
And that's big. What you just said is big, and people need to digest that. That is so big, and it's so like the agenda that people try to push because we know negative sells. We know trouble sells. We know confusion sells. We know all those things sells, and what you just said is a sign of that.
Right, and in Get Warrior Tough and in Mental Toughness 101, the lower level performers operate out of a fear-based mentality. And what we know with cognitive neuroscience is that when you operate out of fear or worry or anxiety, or you feed on that fear, then half your brain shuts down, and it's the creative problem-solving half of your brain, the one you need to make good decisions and, get out of this problem. And so when people are feeding on, and I'll ask this when I go across the country, I ask people, what do you listen to? If you're listening to the news, do they ever tell you anything good when you're watching the news or listening to, they don't tell you anything good. If you read the newspaper, they're not telling you good things because like you just said, those things don't sell. They don't drive ratings. And I'll ask this, do you remember what category of Hurricane Katrina was? And I always get the same answer. It was Category 5. Well, it was Category 5 at one time out in the Gulf, but when it landed, it was a Category 3. However, that never made it onto the news because it wasn't, as sensational. So we don't know that Katrina was only a 3. The problem wasn't the hurricane. The problem was the levees and the flooding. So, and this kind of goes back to how we re-engineer our memories as well that we were talking about earlier in the show. But so if you only feed on things that are fear and negative, half your brain's shutting down, and that is, and again, back to misery loves company. Why are you feeding on that? Is that helping you or hurting you? And right now we're all worried about, it's the market's going to crash because it's September and it's 2015 and oh my gosh, here we go again. And, Black October, back in the 80s and the depression happened at that time. So everybody's freaking out and China with the currency. And if you just read any of that, the zombie apocalypse is about to happen at any time. And of course, absolutely, this has been happening at any time for like 3,000 years. The world's coming to an end for 3,000 years. They go back to the Nostradamus and the Aztecs and all that. It's just like, guys, relax, man. If that's what you focus on.
I love the end of times people because people that hear the end of times people, they don't understand that the end of times people have been saying that every single day since I've been alive. We're in end times. End times. I guess the last 1,000 years have been end times, right? And because we don't know when end times is, so it could potentially be end times at any moment. And so people act as if these things are new, when it's just a continuation of what's always been.
Right, and people have always tried to use fear to motivate people. People have always used fear to drive market share. People have always used fear to gain sales. And I'll tell you, I don't use fear because I know how detrimental it doesn't get you to where you need to go. It's not your target. But did you know I have to, in order for this radio show to grow, is create some kind of controversy. That's what they tell me. If you don't have at least a minor controversy, the audience won't grow.
You know what? It's sad that that's true, but you know what the fear can be with respect to Warrior Tough? The fear of being average, the fear of not moving forward, the fear of not achieving. So it's awesome. not a fear that people. I mean, that's not unreal. You know, a lot of times the fears that people create, they're not real.
No, because fear's a truth, right? Fear's a truth. It's not a fact. It's manufactured.
Exactly.
Danger's real. Danger's a fact.
Danger's real. Yes. Now, the fear that is realized with Warrior Tough is only goes as far as how much you want to fear it. Because some people are, in fact, happy with being average. They're happy with underachieving.
Yeah.
So it may not be a fear. So all Warrior Tough does is make you identify things for what it is. You can call it whatever you want. You can label it however you want in your life. But for most people, when they reevaluate themselves, and if they're not happy about something, they're going to point out the reasons they're not happy. They're going to figure out, they're going to put a focus on it, and they're going to begin to try to eliminate those things. So even if you take out the terminology, what Warrior Tough does, it makes things clearer. It makes things real.
Right,
it makes things easy to categorize and understand, and then you can do with it what you please.
That's so awesome. Man, you're the man. Did you know this hour is gone, bro? We just spent an hour together. That's unbelievable.
Nice.
I have enjoyed it, man. And I'm gonna kind of use social pressure. Would you be willing to do this again occasionally? Come back on the show and help us.
Anytime.
Oh, dude, you are the man. I love you, man. I really do, and I have great respect for you, and I'm so happy that your family is together. But our time is gone, man.
Well, I tell you what, I'm here for you, man. I'm so glad that you're out here doing the service to the I was going to say to the nation, but I know you're an international guy, so to the earth. This is something that's sorely needed. I'm glad you've put your energies into this, and I know you're going to be changing lives on a daily basis. Again, we talk about the mutual people that you've run into throughout the nation, and I'm glad that you are because I know that they're getting good stuff.
Thanks, Dutch. I love you, buddy.
Love you too, man.